spend a lot of time on how to analyze deals. Then I'll show you what you're going to need to submit. We haven't managed to get the page live, but I'll give you a brief idea of what's going to happen. And I'm going to go through actually what the future looks like. I know someone asked me last night about where does this lead to, what other opportunities and stuff. So I'm going to kind of give you my 2 pence worth on where I think it could go. And then obviously a bit like yesterday, I'll answer any questions that you've got. So section 1, how to analyze the deal. I'll give you this spreadsheet at the end, and you can or I'll send you a downloaded version of it. But I used to have fancy calculators. I used to have all sorts of different stuff going on, and I used to spend hours on them. But really, this is all the data that you need to make it work, because a lot of this is guesswork based on data. But at the end of the day, you're still just guessing what's going on. So if we let's just say we identify whatever, it doesn't really matter actually. We'll just say we'll identify this property here. It's 850 quid in NE5 Grasswell Drive. Okay, so I like to run everything annually. I don't run things monthly, which I think a lot of people do. I work annually, so I would just do equals 850 times 12. And then obviously there's an error, and then that puts my rent in there. So I'll just basically the yellow boxes are your the yellow boxes are the ones you fill in, and the rest are all formulas, and it'll sort it all out. So 850 rent is for that property. Now what I want to do is I first and foremost want to, I don't really want to do any refurb work in the main. So now that's not always going to be possible. So like if I was looking at taking this property on, it's going to need, kitchen's not the best, carpets look okay, it's going to need decorating, bit of landscaping, decoration, and obviously it's going to need furniture, and it's going to need some a carpet down in the downstairs to kind of match the upstairs. I don't really like wooden floors. I think it makes places look and feel a lot less homely. I tend to find that our stuff with carpets works a lot better, but you might say that in there you're probably going to need decoration. There could be $2,000 worth of work on that property. It's something that I'm not that keen on doing anymore, but I will look at deals that do need doing, as long as the numbers stack up. So what I would then do is, and this is where I would 100% tell you to invest in an AirDNA subscription. I just think the data on this thing, I never used to use it, in all honesty. I used to just do it manually, and I'll show you the manual version as well, but I'll show you how much quicker it is to just use this, which means you can get on more viewings, you can make more conversations, etc., etc. So we've got Grasswell Drive in Newcastle. So we just simply go Grasswell Drive, Newcastle. With a bit of luck, it brings it up. It always default to 2 beds, 2 baths. What's this again? So this is 3 beds, 1 bath. So I'll just wait for this data to pop up. Come on. There we go. So this is basically the figure I'm looking at. I really don't give a shit about this occupancy rate. Like it doesn't bother me. I've got houses that make plenty of profit that are quite low occupied, which is why when I see deal sources putting deals out and they always talk about this 75% occupancy figure, really it means absolutely jack shit. What I care about is how much money is going to come in my bank account, and then versus how much money is going to go out my bank account. And that's all I really care about. So this is a 3-bed, 1 bathroom, and it'll sleep 6 people. Even though I'll put a sofa bed in and make it sleep 8, I will always run the data based on just the physical beds that are in the property. I won't do it based on the sofa bed, because we are finding that sofa beds are not really getting used for the type of client we now attract. We have a very high percentage of our portfolio now is corporate clients and not weekenders, as I like to call them. So, when I was initially doing it in the first place, we used to get loads of the weekenders because that's what I advertised for. And it was like, I had 5-bed houses with like 16 beds in them, and it was just, party central. And I've come away from that model quite a bit as I've got more experience. So it's very much the contractor gig that we're working for. Most contractors will want a bedroom by themselves, so it would typically be 3 bedrooms, sleeps 3, but you could put, you could put 6, so it's 27.8 with 6. Just out of curiosity, I'll see what it looks like for 3. I'd imagine it won't be that far different, 27.7. So that's saying that, it's going to generate on average 27.7. You can have a look here at the data. So there's 10 of 10 comps here. You can have a look. It'll show you what's kicking about. And it'll actually tell you how much revenue it's done based on the available dates that are in the calendar year and what its potential revenue could be. So you can, this is saying 27. Okay, you got one there, which is going to be 20, but it's not advertised for 365 days. This one here, it's a bit lower, and it is nearly advertised for a full year. This one is obviously knocking it out of the park. So that one, potential 60 grand's worth of revenue, already done 34.5. Again, 53K here, 55K, 29, already done 22. So there's some positive signs there that the data is good. What I would probably do is I'd take that as 25 grand. I always play it down a bit. And then I also drop it down again to factor in the OTA fees. So I would take about 85% of the figure. So B equals 25,000 times 85%. And that gives me the revenue projection of 21,250. So the VAT calculates in there. Now, for those that are keen eyes, I've got the VAT in there at 12% and not 20%. That's because of the way we run our portfolio. And also, you can offset certain costs against your VAT return. So on average, it'll come out at around 12%, which is why I do it there rather than including all the VAT elements into these bits here. So insurance, probably 225 quid a month, something like that. That's a bit punchy. It might be a bit less. Furniture on a 3-bed, probably looking around 4 grand, 4.5 grand, probably. Now, depending on what you source and where you source it and how many there are, will depend on whether I'll send my internal team to do this and we'll take the furniture out the warehouse, or whether we would employ a furniture specialist within that location to do it. So the cost of the furniture pack could differ quite dramatically depending on which option, because naturally I do everything for trade prices around where I can get my guys and get the stock out the warehouse that we buy wholesale versus, if I went to some furniture company, they're going to charge me retail. So, but if you find, I got offered 5 flats today down Cambridge way, which I've bid on. If we get them, we'll pack a team up here and they'll go down for the week and they'll sleep in the properties and they'll kick them all out and then they'll just drive back. So it's worthwhile doing for multi-units, but not so much for the little stock. But 4 grand, thereabouts. Obviously, your sourcing fee, £1 grand, additional items, 2 grand. So we're all into this for like 7,250 quid just to get this property set up. Rent we've got in there at 850. Utilities, again, I tend to just try and think about, worst case scenario, just think about what it costs to run your house, figure out how big your house is, and just, so if you've got a 2-bed house, just think, okay, well, if I had a bit extra on, another 30% on, then that's probably going to be roughly what the utility bills are. It's so hard to get this right, but if we just said here equals 500 quid times 12, which is probably there or thereabouts. Wi-Fi, whatever, 40 quid times 12. And then cleaning and linen, again, like $1 million question. It's going to vary depending on location. It's going to vary depending on the linen setup. But in the main, what I would do is, so say I know 3-bed up here, we could, we'd probably turn that around for 65 quid, probably, maybe a bit more. But if we do equals 70 quid times, I would always go with 6 turns a month, and then I would always go obviously 12 months. So then that's going to give us the cleaning and linen cost of 5 grand, or just there or thereabouts. So total operating expenses 21,250. So obviously this deal doesn't work because your net profit, by the time you've taken your revenue, you've minus your VAT, and you've taken your costs off, you're actually losing money on a yearly basis. So so that deal doesn't work. So you just move on, and then go and get it. Now let's just say, for argument's sake, just so we're not spending forever, just go through deals and deals and deals, is if the rent was 500 quid for that property, does the deal work? Not really. Net profit per year is only 1,100 quid. Payback period is 74 months. I'm looking for an ideal payback of 6 months. Whatever it costs me to set up, I want that money back in my bank within 6 months, give or take. I might go, a couple of extra months if it's a really good opportunity, but I want that money back in my bank within 6 months, ideally, and then we go again. So that's how that works. And then ideally, just be focused on this figure here, get these figures right, and that's how I would use AirDNA. Now, if you haven't got AirDNA, or you don't want to invest in AirDNA, you just simply go Airbnb, and I would just go to Grasswell Drive, Newcastle. There's a couple of, Airbnb is good. I do still sometimes, like the units I looked at before, they didn't seem like the data was good, but I hadn't even heard of the little village, so I started doing a bit of looking around, and there wasn't loads of stuff on here, I'll be totally honest, with regards to other operators. I like to see other operators because I'm quite confident that we can compete with the best. So if there's other operators in there and lots of them, that's a good barometer for me. So I'm just going to go 6 adults here, so it matches like for like. I tend to choose any time, just like a couple of month period, week or weekend. I tend to choose the week because the majority of the people we're attracting are contractors, so it'll give us that sort of guide on what the contractors will more than likely pay. But as you can see here, there's 223 homes within that location, or there or thereabouts. So for me, that's a good sign. That means that there's plenty of people operating in the location, and that's a good sign. So what I then would do is I would then look at, okay, well, I have a look at the review number. I'm not bothered about the score. So 54, that's a new one. 42, new one. 66, 22, 30. So these are good numbers. This is telling me that people are booking within the city. If you go, people are booking, and that looks like one of ours. Yeah. So people are booking within the city, and they're getting plenty of reviews, which is good. So that means that there's definitely activity going on. Now you got to remember that not everybody books on Airbnb, and not everybody leaves a review. So like say this one here, that's got 250 reviews. There's a good chance they've probably had 1,000 people stay, because it's only a certain percentage will come from Airbnb, and only a certain percentage will also review. So, these numbers, whilst this is only 44, they've probably had at least 150 bookings, so that's at least probably 2 years worth of bookings, something like that, depending on the length of stay. What I then do is I do then go back up. And then what I'm looking for is to see what the price is. So they've got 162 a night, 207 a night, 139, 81. But what I'm also doing is looking here at this bit. So if it tells you what type size property it is, then it gives you a good idea. So that's a 4-bed, that's a 3-bed, a 3-bed. So 131, 104, 220, 94. Now I know that this property is out towards this location here. So I'm looking at 133, 104, 207, 162, 131. I'd probably knock that 207 on the head. I'd say that's not that's probably out. So 131, 162. I'd probably position that at 125. Always underplay it, always. You're better off being on the neat side than on the other side. So all you would do here is you'd go equals 125 times 21 nights a month times 12 months, and that'll give you your projected revenue. Now, as you see there, that's come out miles higher than that other one, because if we remember rightly, the occupancy on the other one was about 58%. So if you times that by 58%, this is where I think you're better off leading with data. You're down at that 18,270 mark. We were at 21, I think it was, by the end. So, data is accurate. Now, I will obviously, I will always check. The team behind the scenes will be checking your deals based on the postcodes, based on AirDNA as well. So, if we do see a massive anomaly, like in this instance, if this was submitted to us, we'd then look at it and then we'd say, oh, we're only getting 21. And we'd probably more than likely go with the data. Now, I know from experience that on the fringes of Newcastle through the week, for a 3-bed house, you're probably getting somewhere like £89 or £99 a night. So from my experience, you're getting more like the realistic figure of what AirDNA was pulling through. So again, it's just trial and error. It's knowing things. It's experiencing. It's stacking deals. It's working around stuff. You can also do very similar thing on Google Maps. What I then like to do is what was it called again? Grasswell Drive. So I would go hotels near Grasswell Drive, Newcastle. Hotels are a good sign that stuff works. A really good sign that stuff works. So so as you can see here, as unsurprisingly, Newcastle, it's littered with hotels, but we've also got them around here, on the outskirts of the city as well, where where this property is located. So, but again, you just have a quick look at the pricing. Bear in mind, these are for hotel rooms. They're not for 3-bed houses. So hotel room typically is for an individual. So if you were 3-bed houses, you typically times it by 3. So your 60s, 70s, 57s, 46s, 55s, 44s. That's typically what people are going to be paying for a night in a hotel. And then again, you can just kind of cross-reference that back to your data and make some assumptions, and then try and work the figures back through to get to where we need to be. So that's basically how I analyze the figures. I don't spend ages and ages and ages doing them, like creating all these fancy spreadsheets. I used to, don't get me wrong, but I just simplify it down now. I want to move quickly. I'd rather say, right, that deal doesn't work, let's find another one. Right, that deal doesn't work, find another one. Then just spend hours and hours and hours, going into the deal. Now, in terms of the type of deal structure that we would want, in an ideal world, we want no deposit deals. I mentioned this last night. And we want a minimum of a 2-week setup period. If it's a block of flats, for example, like 5 or 6 flats, we'd want longer. We'd probably want a 3-week setup period. So then that's kind of how we work. And then what we would do is, although we get this setup period, we'd actually pay the rent on day 1. we'd just pay the next rent 6 weeks from that point, and then it will be monthly thereafter, and that will factor in the 6 weeks. So the landlord still feels secure that we've paid his rent. He's, we get the contract, we get the keys, and then we go in and then we get it set up and then we kick on. And then 6 weeks from then, we then obviously will then pay the next rent, and then it'll be monthly thereafter. I don't pay deposits because I don't need to. I'm not having my money tied up in someone else's bank account for 8, 9, 10 years when I can be using that money to, acquire more property, fund more properties, fund more deals. I'm not having it sat in someone else's bank account because we are responsible for the damage. The contract clearly states that. We've got credit card details, offer guests should they want to misbehave. We will always get the property turned back around. If they've got to be able to trust us enough. As I said, if they're really that bothered, they can take out landlord insurance, deposit insurance, which is next to nothing. But I won't pay deposits. I just don't do it. So that's that. Is there any? And I know it's probably a lot simpler than, you probably think there's going to be some sort of complex kind of training on this, but it really is that simple to analyze a deal. It's not that difficult. You just got to make sure you've got, the costs in, and then it all works, and try and get that payback period back to 6 months. You can try and guess occupancies, you can try and guess this and that and the other, but I just think, with their DNA and the tools that you've got around you, you can get straightforward facts and figures, quite quickly. So, it works. It works very simply. So I'll just go through some of your questions. So we analyze deals from Rightmove. No, I analyze the deals before you go out. This is kind of, I think, where the learning comes in. It's good to get boots on the ground, I think. And as I said last night, if you start analyzing deals and then deciding you're not going to go on the viewing because it doesn't work, for example, you might miss that opportunity to actually speak to a portfolio landlord and build that relationship with them. So I would be in favor of going on at this early stage. I would be in favor of going on the viewing and just having a chat, building that relationship. As you get better at it, as you start to know what areas work, what rents work, then you'll start to just go on the right viewings anyway, and you'll not need to do a lot of the manual work at the beginning. So I would probably, for the first month or so, say no, don't analyze deals before you go. Just open conversations, book viewings, go on them, and just see what comes out of it. Get used to the flow. Use it as worst case scenario trials for improving your sales scripts, your communication, your objection handling, all that sort of stuff, and you will get to where you need to be. In terms of maintaining the property for big issues, roof or boiler, yeah, that's 100% down to the landlord. At the end of the day, we are just a tenant. So, roofs, boilers, electrics, all the major stuff is theirs. I mean, technically, the minor stuff is theirs as well. All we really take care of is guest damage. But as I said yesterday, with the sort of the points that we have in terms of our USP over a tenant, is that we will make a commercial decision 9 times out of 10 to just fix something minor and just swallow the cost and move on. Although in the contract it does say it's the landlord's responsibility, because it is. And if they signed that a tenant up, they would be signing up to say that that type of stuff's their responsibility. So it's no different, really. It's just that we just will make a commercial decision rather than a tenant who'll, yeah, all right, I'll wait till next week till the plumber comes around to fix the leak and tap. We haven't got that luxury. We've got a guest and stay who's pissed off and needs it sorting, so we just need it sorted. If you have to use a furniture company, what cost do you think it would be? Totally depends. Furniture companies range from cheap and cheerful to far too expensive and not that good, and everything in between. So what I would suggest is just work on rough guides of. I tend to work on something along the lines of £1,500 for kind of your lounge, your kitchen, and your bathrooms, and then around, depending on the rooms, but you'd be looking at something like 500 to 750 per room, and then you add all that up, and that'll give you a rough idea of what furniture should cost. Naturally, you could go to Facebook Marketplace and kit it out, but that's just not what we do anymore. I'm all about speed. We just get it in, get it done, and go for that. What's the minimum annual rent we're looking to earn? Sorry, annual net you're looking to earn. I'm more focused on how quick I can get my money back than what I'm going to earn. You know, I think because of the economies of scale of the operation, as long as I can plug something in that's going to make profit, then I think it's worthwhile doing. I would say probably wouldn't want to be doing anything for less than 3.5 grand a year net profit, I would say. But I think you'll struggle to find a deal that works for the 6-month rule that makes low profit, if that makes sense. So it kind of goes hand in hand, having that rule in place that it'll actually make sure that you're only taking stuff on that does make decent amounts of profit. I don't use zip and link beds. I just don't. I think it's more hassle than the worth. The cleaners end up not following instructions, and you've got to buy extra types of linen and all sorts. We've just never bothered. We just kit them out with either doubles or singles. Typically in a 3-bed house, you'd definitely have a double, you'd definitely have a twin room, and then you'd probably put another double in. Depending on the area, if you feel like it's a very contracted area, you might go 2 twin rooms. But again, the cost of 2 twins versus a double bed for the analysis purposes is not that far different. So I wouldn't, worry too much about that. Almost just leave that up to us when we're kitting it out, what we decide we want to do. Can you advise what the average number of days occupancy per month you use when determining your approximate annual? Yeah, so I just use 21, which I think is about 70%. I think if you can break even at around 13, 14 days a month, then that's a half decent property. But we do have properties that'll break even around 17, 18 days a month. But I tend to use 21 for the analysis if I'm doing it that way rather than using DNA. So and then that gives us, as I say, a rough idea. Do we make sure it's profitable? Go to the viewings, then potentially, if we've agreed with the landlord, do you then have final say as to whether? Yeah, so we will always have the final say. At the end of the day, it's my money. So I'm not just going to let people spend my money without us verifying that these things actually work. With the greatest respect, we've got a hell of a lot more experience and data behind the scenes to be able to ensure that these deals do work. I think you can provisionally agree it with the landlord. It would probably go along the lines of, we can provisionally agree it's subject to head office sign off, something around those kind of terms. And then most landlords, you can kind of get a provisional agreement that, yeah, okay, as long as those terms are agreed by head office, then, we'll get it signed off in the next sort of 24, 48 hours. And then from that point, you would submit the deals. So I will show you what I mean by that. So what we will have is, let me see if Faraz working on this sheet, but what we'll have is a web link on the Loop Capital Group website, which will be unique for you guys. It'll just have a form on it. And then when you get a deal, then you'll just come and fill the boxes in. So the boxes will be projected annual revenue, average nightly rate, property type, and then there'll just be a drop down, so it'll kind of go through whatever. Property address, so we can then pick up and analyze it, what the rent or the purchase price is, what the deposit required is. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier, I don't pay deposits, so ideally we want that box to say 0. If it is a sticking point with the landlord, and you can get a deal agreed and you think it's a good enough deal and worthwhile paying the deposit, factor the deposit into this additional cost here, because I see it as dead money. So factor it into cost, and if the number still works, then I might consider it. More than likely, I'll get on the phone myself and talk to the landlord, or get one of my team to to jump on the phone and just solidify the trust in why they don't need a deposit from us. Sometimes it just needs a bit of education on their behalf because they're so used to doing it one way. But once they kind of are educated, quite a lot of them do come round. I'm not saying all of them, but some of them do. Setup period agreed, yes or no. So what I mean by that is, have you agreed an initial setup period, either 2, 3 or 4 weeks, depending on the property size? What's the source? Direct to landlord, an estate agent, or someone else? I'm not even sure who that could be, maybe a friend or something like that. But this additional information, give us as much as you can about the deals. I'm expecting deals to be coming in, multiple times a day from all of you. So, we'll have to go through quite a bit of information. So give us, to save the whole, can you ring so-and-so and find out about that? Can you find that out? Just give us as much of information as you possibly can to help us make a decision without having to reach out to anybody. Obviously, your name, email, and mobile number, so we know who has submitted the deal and we know who to get back to. All your images, upload them. There'll be a button to upload them. And then a video walkthrough of also the property as well. If you can just take that on your phone and upload that. And then that'll give us enough information to be able to then do our analysis and then go through everything and then make some decisions, get back to you as quick as we can. I like to move at speed. I don't like to hang around. So, if there's a deal, that source texted me this morning at whatever time, 20 minutes later, I had an answer back for him and an offer, because I just, I think if you move quick in this game, you get deals rather than, fanning around. So, so that's kind of how the process works. It'll just be a link that you'll have, and just save it on your phone. And every time you've got a deal, just click on it and just fill the details out. As soon as you submit that, it notifies everyone in my team who needs to be notified that there's a deal to analyze. All the data's there, all the videos that are there presented, and then we just quickly look through, put it into our spreadsheets, and then see if it all double checks out. And then if it does, obviously we can take the deal on. If we are viewing through estate agents, do we discuss who we are with them, etc., knowing some estate agents don't want us viewing anywhere, or do we just view the property, then do calculations, then if accepted, you would bid? No, I think you should be open and honest with everyone that you're dealing with. If people don't want to work with you, there's no point trying to hide something. I think it's not going to go anywhere anyway, So I think, we have a very established brand. We are trusted. We're known in the industry. I would imagine most people have heard of us in some shape or form. So, we can utilize that to our advantage. And, I think one of the best lines to get in with estate agents, although, we did talk a lot about last night, direct to landlords. I think, one of the best lines to get in with estate agents is, something along the lines of, have you heard how much estate agents are making off working with short-term rental companies these days? And naturally, any estate agent that's a bit hungry would be like, no, tell me more. And then, again, we can look to work with agents. We can maybe look to, they can charge us maybe a little fee if they want to. It just depends how the deal stacks up. As long as it fits within the 6-month rule, they can have what they want. But naturally, if you're adding more and more stuff in, then it's going to make that 6-month checkpoint harder to achieve. So, but I just think honesty is the best policy with everything in life, really. But especially what we're doing, I think far too many people will, try and skirt around the facts of what we're doing. Never use the words Airbnb, like never, or Booking.com. Just that word is associated with bother from their point of view. Always use, short-term rentals. We provide contractor accommodation. They're the type of words and lingo that you should be using. But that is also the truth, because that is the majority of what we do. In its high-level version, yes, it is Airbnb, but what we specialize in as a company is contractor accommodation. Our minimum night stay actually doesn't allow weekends, so we don't get weekender traffic. We pretty much have the majority of the portfolio will have either a 5 or a 7 night minimum stay on. So we are we're attracting the right type of guest that isn't your typical Airbnb guest that's gonna, come and get pissed and trust the property. So, is there a general guide of what areas do work? No. um, I think the only way you can see if an area works is literally do what I did before: jump on Airbnb, put the postcode in, see how many people are operating in that area. I like to see, in the hundreds rather than 12, or 13. I think that's a bit low, but I like to see into the hundreds. That's the only way you can really tell if it's working, is if other people are operating there and there's lots of reviews, then it shows that they're getting, regular traffic through there. If there's 100 people there and all of them only got 2 reviews, I'd be a bit skeptical. I'd be a bit like, that data doesn't look too good. So, are we looking for construction projects for properties suitable for contractors? Oh, yeah. I mean, most properties are suitable for contractors. If you're going to go for the ideal stock is either multi-block flats, or I think your 3, 4, 5 bed terraced houses. I think they're probably the ultimate stock. But again, you kind of so some flats I know work well on their own, and we've got like 2 bed flats, that work. We've got 1 beds, things like that that do work. So everything has an anomaly, but in the main, if I could just pick out the perfect elements, then I would go for them. But what I wouldn't say is don't just focus on them. Just focus on everything in the beginning and see what comes out. We Air DNA charge you per user. So on the company. So unfortunately, no, we don't have a company Air DNA account as such. I would share it if I did, but we don't. Do you think all 16 of us should be in a group chat to help each other out if we're struggling with something, etc.? Yeah, I am. So I guess the next point is to put everyone into some form of communication channel. I use Slack for the company, so I'll probably create a Slack Connect channel and ping you all an invite, and then you can connect in. That will then form, as you say, a chat function. What I will say is, whilst I'm here to support and help, I am by no means going to be doing one-to-one mentoring in a Slack channel on a daily basis. So I'm happy for you guys to be pinging questions in, and if I can answer, I'll answer. But if the group can support one another, that's probably the main focus of the chat. I'll pitch in where I can, but I'm not saying that I'm going to be on hand all the time. And I think sometimes when I put these kind of groups together, people think I'm just have nothing better to do, and I sit by Slack waiting for every ping. One thing about me is I don't actually have any notifications on my phone. I just don't do notifications. So the only thing that beeps on my phone is when it rings. Everything else I have to go and fetch. So I might log into Slack couple of times a day, and then I'll clear all the messages off, so I'm not on it all the time. A little efficiency hack for you is all there, but one of the best things I've ever done. I don't provide proof of funds. No. If a company doesn't want to work with us, then they don't want to work with us, especially on a rent-to-rent agreement. On the purchase and stock, yes, of course, because that's what you've got to do. But for a rent-to-rent agreement, I don't provide proof of funds. I've never really had to, in all fairness. And what I would always say to anybody that's asking for that is if I could also see the proof of funds for the landlord to make sure that they can pay their mortgage. And that normally shuts them up, because why is it any different? They want to know if I'm good enough for the money. I want to know if they're good enough to service the mortgage, so the property doesn't get repossessed after I've spent 5-6 grand furnishing and kitting these places out. So but in terms of purchasing, I have to. That's part of the deal, but I'll deal with that, and my team will deal with that if we ever get to that sort of stage with an estate agent. You don't really need to worry about that. In terms of purchasing flats or houses, what are the qualifying terms? Payback in less than 24 months, ideally, from all costs incurred. So that's refurb, stamp, legals, all that sort of stuff. But if we can get our money back within 24 months, then that deal would stack up. and would look to purchase on that front as well. In an ideal world, if we can, do a tiny little refurb and uplift the value straight away and pull the money out quicker, then fantastic. It just depends. And in terms of budgets, there is no real budgets. I mean, we've probably got the purchasing power of about, I don't know, 10 or 12 million. So we can, go into bigger stock. But what I won't do is, buy 4 flats down in Brighton for 4 million quid. It's got to make sense. I'm in this for cash flow. I'm not in this for equity growth. So I want multi-units, multi-stock out of the least amount of money, because the ADR in Brighton isn't that much bigger than Newcastle. So if I can buy 50 flats for 4 million quid up here, that's going to create, whatever, 1750 a month revenue out of them, versus 4 flats down there that might create 25 or 35. I'm much better off buying here. I will be honest, I think, having looked at deals all over the country for many years now, anything south of probably Manchester doesn't really work for me. I think I'm very much a northern investor based on the model that we've got, and we get a lot more bang for our buck and create a lot more cash flow from those extra units up north than we do down south. So just something to bear in mind. I'm not saying I wouldn't consider something down south, but every deal I have looked at to purchase that I've been presented with doesn't seem to stack up. So okay, cool. Let's just crack on. Any more questions? Just keep pinging them in, and I'll get them answered for you, and we can kind of go from there. So so how to submit a deal, I'll get the link over to you. I'll get the spreadsheet out there. So we'll get all the sort of little bits and bobs sent over probably tomorrow. But if you've got stuff going on in the meantime, don't worry. I'll get you connected into a Slack channel. So obviously keep an eye out for that as well. What I will need is if everybody could send me an email with the email that you want connecting into the Slack channel. If you can do that before, say, tomorrow, then that'll help. Then I'll get that connected all up. So I was asked last night, obviously, where does this all go? I think there's a couple of things I think. One is that you do fantastically well, and you like what's happening. We can build a team around you. So obviously you could manage that team and probably do less on the front end and just more about, managing and getting a bit of time back, but still starting to earn money, and then build those little hubs out. This was kind of my initial idea before I launched my franchise idea, was to kind of build hubs within different postcodes and just have them deal sourcing all the time. So that is one opportunity. I think the more long-term opportunity for most people who would maybe want to actually, come out of their jobs, do this full time, start their own little business, would potentially be to move into taking on a franchise. And we've had great success with the franchisees that we've got so far and the franchise model as it is. And, the reason being is, it is all about long-term wealth creation, the franchise model. It's about, first step is leaving the job. Second step is growing it so that you achieve that financial freedom. And then third step is to actually then grow it more. So you actually achieve the freedom element, which is, you've got a team of people running stuff all day, every day. So if you want to go and play golf, you go and play golf. If you want to take the kids to whatever Disneyland for 4 weeks, you can go and do that, So there's kind of 3 stages to it. And that's kind of what we're always aiming for everybody, just kind of repeating my journey basically. And each part of it is connected. So we kind of give the support around that to get into it. The franchise as well is where you would then start to look at maybe start to buy your own assets so you can create your own long-term wealth. No one can ever take an asset away from you, obviously, unless you don't pay for it. But in the main, whereas a landlord can always change the rental demands or they can want their property back, so you're always, whilst it's a fairly steady game and you don't actually lose that many of them, the small percentage, there is still that risk that you could have that taken away from you. So I'm pretty sure most of you that are interested in property would like to start owning more property assets, or even just some property assets if you've not got started yet, because the spin-off effects of owning assets, as everyone knows, the long-term equity values going up, the constant cash flow coming out of them, it is, in my opinion, the best investment you can make and can hold. So that is, again, another idea behind the franchise. Obviously, coming into why I think the franchise has been so successful is it's a trusted brand. So a bit like what you're going to be able to piggyback off doing this, it's a big difference between walking into an estate agent and saying, hey, I'm brand new to this, but could you really help me out? I'm looking at this, as to going in confidently saying, listen, we represent Luke Capital Group. They've got over 80 million quid worth of property worldwide. We specialize in, contractor accommodation, We're on the hunt right now for 12 properties with around 40 bedrooms in this location to service a contract that we've got. Have you got anything? And there's a story behind it all, and it just backs up. One thing that I've just mentioned there, which I just want to highlight again, is always go in asking for multiple stock, because it shows you're a big player, and it shows you mean business. And if you're a estate agent and someone's coming in saying, I need 45 bedrooms in this location split across as many properties as you've got, they're naturally thinking, that's a lot of commission. I'm going to work with this person. That's a lot of commission if I can pull this deal off. But we do have the ability to take on, lots of volume. So it's not a lie. It's a genuine story, and we will be servicing them with contractors. Fair enough. We might not have got the actual agreement yet, but once we know what stock we've got, we go back to our database and we find, contractors that are on the travel in that location, and we try and put them in. We reach out to all of our third-party operators that bring us contractor-type accommodation stays, and then they'll say, yeah, we've got an inquiry for this, we've got an inquiry for that, and so on and so forth. So you are literally telling the truth. And then obviously you get world-class support at all times. So I think one of the biggest things that I found with my business, and even still today, is the operation side of it is an absolute headache. And I don't think that ever goes away. I just think you can limit the headache by how good you actually are at sort of systems, processes, automation, team building, all that sort of stuff. So what we do is we can take all that away for the franchisees and just keep them very focused on deal sourcing and just bringing more assets into their own portfolios to then create that revenue ongoing every single month. And obviously they take a lion's share of that revenue. So that's where I see those that are successful on the front end will potentially lead into build up enough funds to be able to then access a franchise, prove to us that you're the right fit, because we don't just take everybody on. We only work with people that we know share the vision of the brand and want to, go on the long stretch with us. And those that are successful, in obtaining a franchise, they then come into that network, and then things start to scale quite quickly for them. So they're kind of the two things that I think in the main will come out of being successful at this and giving it your all, and and doing a good job. And I think if anybody does want to ever talk about either of those options once things are up and running, then again, just knock on the door and ask for a conversation, and then we can facilitate it, and we can see where that goes. So that's that. I think the next part is literally just questions. If anybody else has got any questions, and if not, then obviously we can wrap up. I can see there's a couple in the chat here. Do you have an Excel number sheet for purchasing deals? I do. I would, if I'm totally honest with you, I would like everyone to probably just focus on rent to rent stuff now. Reason being, that's not for me. I would love to buy as much assets as I can and need to get some more projects in the pipeline. But you're going to get very demotivated if you're going on a lot of viewings and you're not getting much back from it. And if you were to secure a deal today to buy, you're not going to get any commission on that for probably 3 months. because even if you're buying with cash or you're buying with bridging, it's still taking solicitors so long to get to that point. So, but in the main, all I'm looking for is, if you were to, quickly analyze it, if you think you've got a deal that works, you can work out what the purchase price is, what the input cost is, and then basically work out same drill, how much revenue, what are the costs, what's the net profit per year, and then you just basically work out how much have I put in the deal for stamp duty, legals, deposit, all that sort of stuff, and then bridging interest loans, things like that, and then it's just divide that by that, and then if it's less than 24 months, submit it in. We'll have a look at it. I'll deep dive analyze it, and then we can kind of go from there. I wouldn't waste too much time on that at the minute. I'm in London. Shall I look for deals elsewhere? No, not at all. 90-day rule in London. Don't worry about that. We will get access to the spreadsheet. Showed. Yes, I'll give you access to the spreadsheet. I'll send it out. I'll send it out with the links, and also when I do all the Slack connection and stuff, I'll get my team on it in the morning. Obviously, they're in Dubai, the majority of them, so it'll be 10 o'clock at night there now. So it'll be tomorrow morning before anything kicks off on that front. Just all right. Not that I'll think you'll do it as just organization. But what is stopping you from rejecting the deal from us then pursuing it on? I don't see the point in cutting anybody out of the picture that's going to serve you long time, like for the long term. This is that, and I'm not saying this is you, but that is a very narrow-minded mindset, and I think, but it's fine because that is how the majority of businesses, unfortunately, operate. Is a very me type attitude. I don't like. At the end of the day, why cut off the hand that's feeding you type of thing. If a deal works for me and I get to pay someone £1,000, then my acquisition guys on the ground, it costs me on average, including their wages and commission, around about £874 for a deal. So whether I'm paying them or I'm paying you, I'm still paying somebody to get deals. It's no different. So there is the answer to your question. There's nothing stopping me doing it, but I haven't got the time and I can't be bothered with the hassle. It's much easier for me to just say, great job, there's £1,000, go and get the next one, than it is to me try and save £1,000 and try and go around the back and blah, blah, blah. Like that's just, we're so far past that. So you just don't even need to worry about it. I think if you like, for me, company culture is the biggest thing. A good company culture is more important than any great product and service. If you haven't got the right company culture, think about Apple, right? Apple had the best product on the market and they nearly went bankrupt because their company culture was terrible. They had to restructure everything. It all went sideways. They sacked Steve Jobs. Everything was literally, Steve Jobs had to be brought back. They had to restructure. They had to build the culture from the ground up. And now it's one of the best businesses in the world. Netflix, another great example of a great business that has an amazing company culture and has built their business based on that. And I'm a big believer that if you get your company culture right, you'll absolutely fly. So that's one of the biggest things that we work on. And by shafting people, you're never going to achieve that. So it just goes against everything that we're trying to do behind the scenes. What is the legal requirements on our side that you need to be aware of? Nothing really. I mean, Dubai is different. There are some legal stuff in Dubai. So obviously we've got to be DTCM compliant in all the units. Some of the buildings don't allow it, which we need to know about. Some of the buildings out there won't let you modify some of the DAMAT buildings and things like that. So again, it's just asking around about that. But in the main, there are no real regulations in play in the majority of the locations that we operate in. So not really much to worry about. Just worry about getting deals over the line, and then we're always going to vet everything, especially at the beginning, until you've probably put 15 to 25 grand's worth of commission deals through us. We're probably still going to be checking all your deals, and even at that point, we probably still give it a little once over. So I take full responsibility for everything. And if one slips under the net that shouldn't have, then ultimately that's our problem and not yours, really. But in the additional information box, as I mentioned last night, with the sort of freehold leasehold thing, I would like us to get like the leasehold contracts so you can submit them to us so we can have a look, especially for the flats. Will agents, landlords ask for proof that we represent possibly, but like just whatever, give them the website. It's again, that's just sales, isn't it? Just give them the website, tell them who you are, and and that's that. And I doubt it, to be fair. I think they'll just crack on. I haven't spoke to the legal team yet. I've literally haven't had a minute today. I've been on podcasts and all sorts. Would you look at refurb an apartment villas here in Dubai also if the numbers add up? Yeah, I will refurb if the numbers add up, but in the main, too much refurb means the numbers don't add up unless you can get rent-free periods. But even with that, I would prefer to just say to the landlord, can you just get it ready for me? This is what I want. And then I'll just start paying rent than me having to bother doing all the rent-free stuff. Landlord's mortgage terms, that's their problem, not our problem. Don't need to worry about that. Don't focus on it. If it's up to them. I know fine well I've got landlords that say they're going to change their mortgage and don't. It's not your problem. At the end of the day, if a landlord, the only time a mortgage company comes after you is if you stop paying. That's the only time. So some landlords are, very by the book, and they'll be, wanting to change it, but then it might not work because some of them might be in 2-year, 3-year, 5-year fixed, and to change it to try another strategy might not work for them. But I'm a big believer, ask for forgiveness, not permission. And I think as long as you're paying your bills and ticking along, then 9 times out of 10 stuff plays out all right. But again, it's not your problem. If the landlord gets into bother because he doesn't do it right, that's up to him. I wouldn't even mention it unless they bring it up. It's up to them to do their own research on who the tenants are and what they need in place. Is there an average furniture per property? Nah, not really, but those figures you've put are far too low. 2-bed, 3.5 grand. As I said before, if your class kitchen, bathroom, and lounge is 1,500 quid, and then work on, depending on size of rooms, but work on about 500 to 750 per room, then you're not going to be a million miles away on your furniture. You're not going to be a million miles away. For a source and personal, do you recommend getting a business card for use during networking with potential prospects? And what about an email address ending? Yeah, I think once people have proven themselves and really sort of embedded themselves into the company, then I probably will, I have already thought about this, start to look to make things a bit more official. Personally, I don't do email. We don't really do email in our company. I come away from it. I don't do business cards either. I think they're a waste of money. I think, just speak to people, get phone numbers. In Dubai, just WhatsApp it like that. Everyone loves WhatsApp. Just get a WhatsApp business account and glam your profile up. You can put everything on there that needs to be on there. But, I personally think that the sales game has moved past business cards and email. I think it's very much just relationship building. It's very much like, we'll submit this information to head office. I'll have you answer within 48 hours. I'll ring you back. And then if it then is a deal, the team in the office will take over and we'll get all the contracts issued out. And then we'll just let you know once the deal's all done. We might need you to help a bit with some logistics sometimes, depending on where it is. And potentially, if there's any questions or a bit of, communication that needs to happen between the 3 parties, then there will be. But I wouldn't worry too much about business cards and email addresses at this stage. So apartments where we struggle to get a lockbox, good question. We put digital locks on all the stuff now, but it doesn't necessarily mean that will get us in the front door. If there is there's 2 things. One, how far away is the local key nest? So key nests are verified shops, corner shops, places like that, takeaways that hold keys for people. There's if you go on keynest.com or .co.uk and just type in your postcode, it'll show you where the nearest one is. Bear in mind, no guest wants to walk. So if it's miles away or probably even more than 30 seconds away, it probably won't work. But there are some other options, which is, can we drill a lockbox anywhere on the building? Doesn't have to be at the front door. Can we put you can get these like chain lock boxes that can go around like iron bars. And worst case scenario, could we get a bike lock and a lockbox on a bike rack outside the building somewhere? So like say on the streets of London or something like that. So there are options. Just when you're at the building, have a little think about that when you are viewing. How am I going to get in here as a guest? How do we get into the door's fine because we'll put a digi-lock on, so that's fine, the main door. Having said that, it would probably, it'd be a good idea to make sure that your photographs, you get a picture of the door and also the door frame from the, like you open the door and take a picture that way so we can actually see the lock, see what type of cylinder it is, and then obviously one from the front so we can see how the cylinder's on, so we know what digi-lock needs to go on, and we can obviously price that up. But in the main, just think about how do we get in the front door. That's the question you've always got to be asking yourself with blocks of flats. Any legal requirements? There's no licenses. To buy there is, but we've got that covered. We can get them, not a problem at all. We just need certain documentation from the landlords, but that's it. I don't think there's a target number of deals you need to send, but I would like to think that we could be doing a minimum of 5 each. So, you know, how many you need to send to get 5? I guess, again, talking about like we did before with the numbers, you'll have to work that out. So if you know you've sent 12 deals and you've got 5 agreed, then, you know, you've got just less than a 50% hit ratio. So it's more, I'm more about like results. So, you know, what's the actual result that we've got? How many have we actually taken on? How many have we got over the line? And that's what, you know, we're all interested in, because we don't earn any money until we've got them over the line, and obviously we don't earn any money until the setup and generating cash. So yeah, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. But in an ideal world, I'd like to think we're all doing 5 a month. Obviously that would, you know, probably put a nice paycheck in everyone's bank each and every month, and give you a lot of questions to ask about, you know, what your next steps are in terms of jobs and stuff like that. And ultimately that's what I want for you. So yeah, so that's it. I will, if everyone can email me their email address that they want the Slack Connect invite sending to, that would be great. And then I'll get my team to set that up tomorrow. I'll get the spreadsheet sent over. I'll get you the link to submit the deals. And then obviously you guys can communicate in the Slack channel, any questions you've got. And then I will obviously be on hand to try and help in the first few weeks as and when I can. And then, you know, hopefully we can get some deals knocked in as early as next week. And then obviously we can just keep the flow going thereafter. And hopefully it'll be a very nice relationship that we build over the next coming weeks and months, and hopefully years. And it works for everyone. So that's the intention. I need to shoot. I thank you very much for your time, everyone, and good luck for the next few weeks. And as I said, just ask any questions that you do have, and I'm sure we'll get them answered for you. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, right.